the services. Now that I've installed it, I want to make sure my services are running. So I'm going to come to Tools and select Services. And I'm a big fan of sorting by startup type, so I can see all the services that have to start automatically. I just like scrolling through here, making sure that they're all up and running. The ones that, again, that are automatically delay, or they may be also set up to be a trigger start, you don't need to make sure that those are running. So since those are all running okay, I'm good there. But I do want to pay special attention to the service that we just installed, which was, again, was our SNMP service. I'm going to right-click on it and go to the properties for that service. And under the Security tab, I'm going to set what we refer to as the community name. And we're going to set this up as the defaults. So I'm going to select that I'm going to create a new community name and rights. It's going to be set up as read-only, and the community name, this is very generic here, or default. Oh, it's public. I'm going to hit Add. And then I'm going to select the option down here to accept SNMP packets from any host. The default, you noticed, was to accept only from the following host that you list. That is a much more secure mechanism or setting that you can set up. It's a much better configuration. But again, our goal here is not to lock down the machine. We're to learn different vulnerabilities that could exist. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. We'll close that down. So another thing that we need to do here is we need to set the IP address for this particular machine. The default for it, if I come here and look at the local server, you'll notice here that the IP address is it's being assigned by a DHCP. Well, I don't have a DHCP server. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this link. It takes me to my network adapter. I'm going to right-click on it, go to Properties, and then I'm going to scroll down here to where it says Internet Protocol version 4 or TCP/IP v4. Just double-click on that, and that opens up your IP address info. I'm going to not obtain automatically because I don't have a DHCP server out there, but I'm going to go through and select to use the following IP address. And the IP address that I'm going to use is going to be, and you can use any range that you want as well. Again, I'm going to do this so it's easy for me. If you follow along with me, then things will make sense when we're trying to identify machines by IPs, because very seldom do we actually do it by the actual DNS name. Typically, we're hitting it by IP. So this particular one, I'm going to call it I'm going to give it the IP address of 192.168, and I'm going to go with 0.10. And the subnet mask, I'll leave at the 22255, because I'm not going out onto the internet to anywhere. I don't need to worry about a default gateway. And for the DNS server, I'm going to put in its own IP address, because we will install DNS on this machine. So I'm going to put in here a loopback address, which I could technically type in the 192 address that's listed up there as my IP, or I can use a 127.0.0.1 address, which means look at myself for DNS. Now again, I don't have DNS installed on this machine at this point, and that's okay. We might play around with that a little bit later. I'm just setting this up ahead of time. I'm going to hit OK and close that back down. Another feature that we're going to want to install, I do have to select the server name, then come to Features, is the Telnet client. So I'm going to scroll down here, and you could have selected this earlier as well. I'm just trying to compartmentalize as much as I can for you. And I'm going to go ahead and select Next. Tells me I need to restart it, or if I need to restart it, I don't need to for the installation of the Telnet client. I'm just going to hit Install. Okay, after that's done being installed, I'm going to go ahead and hit Closed. And the next thing we want to do on this particular machine is to disable something that's enabled by default. And again, guys, I understand you may be thinking that I would never do this. Trust me, you're going to come into environments, or you may be around environments where somebody has done some of these settings to make things easier for them. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to go through and remove the password complexity. And we'll be doing this on all the hosts. And we'll be doing this both on the host and the guest operating systems. So let me show you while we're here on the Server 2012 box. I'm going to come up here to my Tools. And under my Tools, I'm going to come down to under my Administrative Tools. I'm going to come down to where it says Local Security Policy. And I open up the console for that. And inside the local policy, I'm going to open up my account policies. Under my password policy settings, I'm going to highlight it. And you'll notice here that the default is the password must meet complexity requirements. So I'm going to disable this. Now, the default, again, is enabled, which means our passwords have to comply to the following options. They have to adhere to at least 3 of the 4, and that is uppercase, lowercase, a number, and a special symbol. And that's why when we did the installation of the server, we did that funky password, just so that we would adhere, because that's the default. But we're going to disable this because we may have in our demos coming in the ability for users to create whatever password they'd like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Notice that that's been disabled. Now this will also require a restart of this machine. So after we're done setting the local security policy, the next thing we're going to do is, and we'll do this again on each machine, and I'll have these detailed steps both in the demo.zip file as well as I'm going to demo this on each of the machines, but we're going to create user accounts. And these user accounts are going to be the same account on every single machine. So I'm going to come over here to my tools, and under my tools, I'm going to come into my computer management. I'm then going to come over here to where it says local users and groups. I'm going to create some local users. So I'm going to come down here to users. Notice I have the administrator account as well as the guest account. I'm just going to simply right click and select I'd like to create a new user. And for the first user, you can call these usernames anything you want, but if you follow my instructions here, then when we do the demos, you'll understand what we're trying to accomplish. So, and here comes my superhero nerdiness. So let's see, my first username is going to be Bruce Wayne. Oh, excuse me, it's his login name, which would be B. Wayne. His full name will be Bruce Wayne. And we're going to give him a password. And the password I'm going to give him is going to be something really simple. It's going to be Batman, all lowercase. And he doesn't have to change it on the next login. I'm going to select Create. And now I'm going to create another one, and we'll say this is, let's just go with, I'm going to pick a name here out of the blue, D. Grayson. And that's Dick Grayson. And his password is going to be, let's pick a bird here, Robin. Now, I know these aren't difficult passwords, but that's the point. I'm going to hit Create. We'll create another one here. This one we'll call their login name H. Jordan. And that would be Hal Jordan. And let's just say his password is green. Oh, and I forgot to do Dick Grayson doesn't have to change. So make sure you select that they don't have to change on the next login. We'll go back and fix Dick Grayson's here in just a second. And let's create another one, and we'll do C. Kent. And we'll just say his name, I don't know, this is Clark Kent. And his password is super, I guess. I'm just making these up, guys. And I'm going to select, again, that his password doesn't have to change. We'll hit Create. Then we'll close this. I'm going to go back in here real fast since I goofed up. Hopefully you didn't goof up, but you may have on Dick Grayson's account. I'm just going to right-click on his account, go to Properties, and just deselect and hit OK. Now, whatever accounts or whatever username and passwords you use here, make a note of those because you're going to create the same accounts on each one of the machines in the environment. We're not going to be dealing with a domain controller. In the future, we might. This is just setting up some basic accounts. Okay, a couple other things that we're going to want to do here is first we're going to turn off the old Windows firewall. And we can do this a couple different ways. We just come down here to the Start button, click on it, and just start typing in the word firewall. And I'm going to do not open the one with advanced security. It's going to take you someplace you don't necessarily need to go right now because we just need to turn this off. I'm just going to select the Windows firewall. Again, this is going to be a step that we do on every single machine. It's kind of funny that we talk about turning off the firewall. And normally you would think, ooh, that's a bad thing. And yet I don't know how many times I teach a class when the firewall comes up as a point of subject, Majority of IT guys actually have group policies that push out that turn this thing off. And it's because it creates a hassle for them, they think, but that's okay. We'll let them do that. I'm going to come in here and select to turn off the turn the Windows firewall on or off, and just select to turn it off for both. This will also allow the machine to respond to ping requests. I could actually go through and open up some ports through the advanced settings, so it would respond to an ICMP. But we're just going to make things very, very simplistic here so that we can get the theory and the concepts down. I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to see a lot of red here, and that's okay. And the last thing I'm going to do is I think I want to check to make sure that I don't have any screensavers, but on a server I'm not going to have them by default because, yeah, they shouldn't be turned on. Again, this is going to be something we'll check on every single machine. We know that the desktop platforms, the screensaver will be active, and so you're just going to want to make sure that we turn those off as well. But again, when we get to the setup of those machines, I'll review that with you. So that gets us a starting point here for our Server 2012 R2 box. What we want to do now is we're going to move on to installing our next one, and in order to do that, we're going to go ahead and shut this machine down. So I'm just going to come down here to the Start menu. I'm going to right-click on it, select the Shutdown option, and just select to please shut this bad boy down. I'm going to go ahead and select it's being shut down for other, and hit OK. I have my console still open here. We'll go ahead and close that. Okay, and that's how you set up the 2012 R2 box.